Okay.
Okay. I, Karen Laubengayer, give you consent to use this interview for your research methods class.
All right. Where did you complete your graduate education?
I completed my graduate degree at Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay. And what was the topic of your dissertation?
Topic of my dissertation was Alberto Ginastera's Sonata for Piano.
Okay. And what made you choose that?
Well, I'm a performer, and as a performer, I chose a piece that I had played on my doctoral recital, and I wanted to do extensive research into how that piece was written. So it turned into my dissertation, and I learned a lot about the composer and how he wrote as a composer. So it was of interest to me because I actually performed the piece.
Oh, okay. And what type of research did you conduct? Was it qualitative or quantitative?
It was qualitative.
Okay.
Yes, not quantitative.
And why did you choose qualitative?
Because of the nature of what I had to do with the piece. In music, it's a little different than the type of research you would do in other fields. So I took the piece and I analyzed it, and I broke it down to the bare minimum, and then worked it back up to really see how it was put together. And then it turned into a teaching document in pedagogy for others that may perform that piece, because they could read my analysis to understand the piece better.
And how important do you think it is for undergraduates to complete a course in research methods? Very
important, because everything now is research-oriented. I know in my teaching here, even in my applied studio, I encourage my students to research their composers, to find as many different sources to talk about their composers. So yes, I think it's very important for undergrad, because you're going to do it in graduate school.
Oh, yeah.
So you need to learn here.
And what are some areas in their discipline, your music, and what are some areas in music that you are working on right now?
In research? I'm doing a lot of research. In fact, I took a sabbatical. I'm researching African American women composers of the 20th century that have written spirituals and other pieces, and some of these pieces have not been published. So I've been researching them, and then myself and a colleague, Ms. Phyllis Lewis Hale, who's a vocalist, present this research in a lecture recital format for different groups, so that we can learn about the African American composers.
Okay. And any suggestions for bonding research?
For what?
Bonding.
Say it again.
Bonding, B-U-D-D-I-N-G.
Buddy? Oh, buddy research? Like, I do that all the time. Collaborative type things? Okay, I just didn't get your question. It makes it more fun that way. Yes, if you can have a partner, where you can, and then, you can do something together, and that person's responsible for this, and you bring it together and you present it together, that's excellent. That's collaboration. And that can turn into collaborative articles, collaborative books, that type of thing.
Okay, and is there any other type of research besides the one that you just said that you would think about doing?
If I had more time, perhaps when I retire, I'll be able to have more time to do it. But there are some other areas. I'm into women's studies, so maybe something else that would be along that line, 20th century women, writers, composers, and how it relates to music. That's probably what I would do.
So are you only interested in doing things in music? Research or?
Right now I am, I guess, but I mean, I could broaden out, I think. With music, literature is important because of lyrics. So it might broaden out to literature, that type of thing. Music and art go together well. So, it's a possibility of, talking about art and music and bringing those together. There's a lot of possibilities. Probably stay in the fine arts type area.
So do you feel like, because for research methods we only have one semester to do the class, do you feel like you should be longer than just one semester, since it is like a lot of information to take in?
Yeah, that seems like that's a lot to put in one semester, in my opinion. It probably could be 2 semesters. Because it almost take you a semester to learn how to do it, and then to apply it. It might be better to take, a couple semesters. Because you'll be doing research all your life, especially if you go to grad school.
And can you tell me the difference between qualitative and quantitative research?
I don't really know a lot about it, to be quite honest with you, to be able to give you a good answer on that. I'm just going to be honest about that. I haven't done a lot of that.
Let's see. Let's pause.
This institution is really research-oriented. It's a research institution, so it has encouraged faculty as well as students to do as much research as they can. It's evident in your evaluation and how they evaluate what you do. So you have to keep current in your field, and the only way you can keep current is to continually research your field and what new things are happening. You can't stay the old ways, new ways that you research how to be creative teaching, new ways of teaching, but you have to research it.
And what made you choose Jackson State?
Jackson State chose me, and I'll tell you why. Because as I was performing with a vocalist, and we did a recital here, 1984, a long time ago, and I was right out of grad school, and 2 weeks later, I get a call in Missouri, after I was here performing, that they needed a person in the keyboard area, and that's how I came. Okay. Being in the right place at the right time.
And where did you say you were from?
St. Louis, Missouri. That's where I grew up.
Okay. And what did you study in college? And what college did you go to?
I went to undergraduate school at a small liberal arts school called Stevens College in Columbia, Missouri. I was a piano performance major.
Oh.
And my master's is also in piano performance. And my doctorate is in what they call performance practices, a PhD in music.
Okay.
And it was more research-oriented, still a lot of performing, but research-oriented, too.
Okay.
Conferences are very important when you are presenting research. You can present and your research to colleagues from all over, doing national conferences. I've done several College Music Society conferences. I've gone to England to do an international conference on presenting music research. So there's a lot of arenas that you can take advantage of when you do your research, and sometimes it can get you all over the world, and that's kind of neat. So I've been all over with that, and continue to do that and enjoy that.
So you're still doing it right now?
Yeah, I'm still working on it. In fact, Miss Lewis Hale, who's our vocalist, and I are presenting our research on African American women composers at Millsaps College on April the 14th, in a lecture recital at Millsaps College, and it's called Beyond the Spiritual, and it features 20th century African American women composers.
And you say you got interested in going to conferences. Why?
Conferences are great because you're with faculty and colleagues from schools all over the nation, and they're presenting their research. So that's just another way of keeping up with what's going on in your field. You can't just sit in your office and keep things where they are, because I learn from conferences what I can pass on to my students. Because I'm not teaching the same way I did in 1984 in 2014.
True.
I can't. Everything, technology. I mean, so many things, and you have to keep up with that because the students are different.
Okay, so what interested you in getting into music?
I grew up with music. I had parents that were musicians, and I started at a very young age, like 5 or 6 years old, taking piano, and I just kept through it. I went to music schools, took it through grade school, high school, private instructors, and then it was just something that became my passion. And then majored in it in undergraduate school. Didn't know what I wanted to do when I left college. I performed a lot, but I thought, I think I need to do something else with it, so I got into teaching. So the master's degree, when I worked on that, focused more on teaching and performing. Then I thought, well, I enjoyed the master's program so well, I'll just keep working on into the doctoral program, and that focused on more research, as you're talking about. So it evolved, but I've done music all my life. I'm in a family of musicians, and I think that's what happens a lot of times.
And where did you get your funding for your research, the money for your research?
There wasn't a lot of funding for my research, mostly right here. The school did, here at Jackson State, I took a semester, sabbatical, a paid sabbatical, and that was wonderful because I could just put all of my time and effort into my research of African American women composers. And that took me like to Arkansas, to University of Arkansas in Little Rock, because they had archives there that in the library. It gave me time to go to different places where the manuscripts I needed to look at were there, and time away from having to teach. And that's what's wonderful about a school such as this, who will give you a sabbatical when applied for to do your research. So, and in the department, when we go different places, we'll take care of costs and conference, and that's always helps too. So they're very good about that here.
So they pay for the conferences?
Yeah, they have in the past. Even when I went to England, and I went there twice.
Oh, wow.
Because, and they'll do that long as you're presenting. You have to be invited to present. I just didn't go and attend.
Oh, okay.
But they will help you out if you're presenting, because that's good for the school. That's part of their. So they did take care of that when I did that.
Okay, and as far as your funding for your research that you're working on right now, how's that being utilized?
It's being utilized through several programs that we're doing throughout this spring. It started back in February. We took the lecture recital on African American women composers, which is about a 30 to 35 minute presentation, and it's a combination of dialogue and song, piano and voice. So we talk about the composers, introduce them to the students, their background, their particular style of composition, why they were important in the era that they lived. And then we perform pieces that they wrote so that they can get the feel for the composer and the music that they wrote. So it's about a 35 to 40 minute program. We performed at Holmes Community College in February. A lot of times we use the month of February, since it's Black History Month, is particularly a good month to take this type of a program to different schools to celebrate African American composers. Funding-wise, the university gets us where we need to be to do this. The next place we are going to be going will be Millsaps College on April the 14th to present the same program. Now, it can be presented in celebration of African American composers, but because it's women composers, it can be celebrated on women composers, so it's kind of a combination. We also do the same program in Brookhaven later in April at the School of the Arts for the students there. So that entails us doing the program, and also it's very good recruitment-wise, because we will be possibly recruiting, this is School for the Arts, some more pianists, some more vocalists for our program here. And then we're going to end up, for the last performance will be in New Orleans, Louisiana, at the Academy for the Arts. That's also a school, high school doing the program there. So it's a matter of getting where we need to be, funding. We don't make a lot of money doing it, it's not at this point, but it's a way for us to get the research out to the community at large and around the state.
Okay. And I would like to thank you for participating in this interview.
Well, you are quite welcome. I enjoyed doing it.
All right,
Thank you.